Hi, I'm Danny Ramos, and welcome to this week's edition of Hispanic Speak Out TV, brought to you on Bright House 49 every week, Tuesday nights. The purpose of our show is to bring community leaders that are involved in politics, news, and other issues from the Hispanic community to the general public. Tonight we're interviewing, or he's interviewing me, I'm not sure, we haven't decided which, Jose Miranda. And Jose Miranda is a radio personality, among other things, here in Central Florida. And he's on the big 810 AM radio every Saturday. At what time, Jose?
Noon to 1 p.m.
It's noon to 1 p.m. and the show's called Yo Soy Latino. And he focuses in on the Hispanic community and issues that affect the Hispanic community, much like we do. So I guess we might be the TV version of his radio show. And again, it's 810 AM radio. You need to tune in because they got unusual perspectives and he hits a very large audience. Jose, welcome. I haven't been on the radio with you for a while. You haven't been on TV with me for a while.
That's right. That's right.
I beat you to it.
No, okay, that's fine. And by the way, the show is also co-hosted by Heidi Ayala.
Heidi, how's she doing?
Yeah, she's doing fine, man.
She's really good.
Yes.
She's a good counterpart. I listened to that. She's really good.
She's the calming edge of the show.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, although I'm quite calm myself. But, you know,
that's before you take out the gun.
Well, that's true too. So,
so what's going on in politics? What from your show, from the perspective of radio, and what you do? Let's talk a little bit about the political arena, the upcoming elections. How do you see the upcoming presidential primaries?
Right now, what I see is a lot of maneuvering by one party. I'm not going to hold any punches with it, by the Republican Party, making it very difficult for minorities to have a clear entrance to vote, where before we had people used to vote, sign up the same day. We've gone past that. Now we've come into IDs, extra pictures, and in some states, not just this state, but in some states, they have started to refuse the ID of a serviceman as a proper ID.
Really?
Yes. They've started to walk back a little bit on it, you understand? But they already stepped in their doo-doo, and it's something that we should be paying attention to. And of course, you know, we have the continuing facade that they're actually representing somebody who voted them in a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, that's not, whoever voted them in 2 years ago, they are not representing them anymore. It seems to be a party of politics more than anything else.
How do you see the presidential kickoff? Obama's going to raise $1 billion for his campaign. Do you think that's gotten out of hand? I'm not talking about Obama getting out of hand. I'm talking about the whole financial process of money in politics.
Well, we did that when our questionable Supreme Court got into the mix and said, hey, if you're a corporation, you can not only put in whatever you want in terms of money, but you also don't have to indicate who you are putting in the money. Look at Mitt Romney, for example, where somebody opened up an account for, I don't know, a couple of days, 3-4 days, and put in $1 million into his account, and then close the account, close the office, close down the telephones, and just disappeared.
What happened to the million?
He got it. It transferred over to him. But it's perfectly legal under our new attaboy system that we have.
Well, it's always been an attaboy system. I mean,
I think though, you know, it's more.
You're a Democrat, right? You're a Democrat.
Yeah. More
okay. So your statements always lean Democratic, no matter what. But the system
no, not
is
necessarily.
always...
You can't say that.
Okay, give me one time,
I'm fair-minded. I understand that there's a need for certain things. I understand there's a reason, you know, for business and stuff like that. However, what I see now, it's more one-sided. There's no middle ground. There's no communication, and there's no common sense. As far as I'm concerned, what we should be doing among all the things that are happening is we've lost sight of the voter. We the people are no longer we the people. It's 350 guys up there deciding whatever they want. And we seem to just keep voting in the same
But that happens-
schmuck
that-
over and over again.
That happens with Democrats and Republicans too, because
Well, we should have term limits on the whole bunch. On the
We
whole
agree.
bunch. Okay? We should have term limits. Okay? And a sanity test. Okay? No, you have to have a sanity
what
test.
kind of test would it be?
I don't care whether it's trying to pee in a square cup. I don't care what it is. But it has to be something that will indicate that they have a balance. Okay, or else we're forced, we'll have a whole Congress full of Michelle Bachmans,
Well,
and we can't have that.
You got to be careful with Michelle. She's connected to. She speaks to God directly every day.
And that's true.
She's trying to replace the Pope.
I understand. I totally understand. And I'm not knocking it. She has a couple of decent ideas. I'm not sure what they are yet, but I'm sure that she has it. I'm just used to her saying whatever. You know, she's like a Roger Dangerfield of Congress. Okay. She gets no respect. You know, she just says whatever she wants, and that's scary. But we have a bunch of them that are out there doing this thing. You know, we have our Texan now who wants to lynch Perry, who wants to lynch the Treasury, the Treasury guy. So if he was in Texas, he would do it Texas way. We have a guy in Perry who got quite a thunderous applause when he said he's willing to use the death penalty, you know, slice them and dice them. And we all know that some people get wrongly killed. We have that as a perfect example. How many people are coming out of prisons now with DNA that they didn't have 20 years ago?
There was a guy, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
He was accused of rape, and nobody did anything, and he sat in jail for 17 years.
And the states have gotten so aware that they've been shafting people. That's why they started creating laws that you can't sue, because they figure there's a whole slew of people in there that the same thing is going to happen to, and they're afraid of getting lawsuits. So it's a catch-22. I think the upcoming elections are going to be very, very interesting, given the shenanigans.
Aggressive.
Well, I'm thinking that when you can't win an election outright, when you knowingly know that you can't win, you start to change the system. You create things that change the system in your favor. You wait long enough and you'll change it in your favor. Right now, the Republicans are changing the playing field so that they can win. And that goes along with low voter turnout is usually means a Republican wins. A large voter turnout, a Democrat wins. The game is being played now, and we the people are busy sleeping.
What do you think about, with all the stuff that's been going on with the deficit and, you know, the health bill, immigration has fallen to the side. When it was a matter of a few months ago, it was on the first page of every newspaper in the country, CNN, Fox News. That was the lead story all the time, all the time, all the time.
You're a New Yorker.
You don't hear it anymore.
You're a New Yorker. You remember Three-Card Monte?
Yeah.
A game of chance you play in the street and there's always a sucker's bet.
Yep.
Well, immigration is a sucker's bet. It's a side issue that has nothing to do with the main issue, because you're not going to get rocket scientists coming across the Mexican borders trying to get a white guy's job. But they're going to say to white people, they're coming to get you. Okay? And they're going to say it over and over and over again, that these people who are picking apples and tomatoes and stuff like that, not only them, their children are participating in the same way. That these people who paid thousands of dollars to get over here to make chump change are taking away the American money, the American market. That's bull. That's a total lie. So they're gonna bring it back up. They're gonna shake and rattle the maracas there.
You think it's going to be a major political issue for the presidential?
It's going to be an issue because it's a side issue. They're gonna give you the Three-Card Monte over here, and on this side they're gonna rob your underwear. Mm-hmm. Okay, on this side, and pardon my friend, you know, my uses, but I want you to understand that you were going to get raped on this other side because you're going to pay attention to this side, and that's exactly what they're doing. We have big issues. We need jobs. We're not going to worry about the guy who's going to pick tomatoes. There is not a line outside the tomato factory for somebody to pick. A small article, the Tomato Pickers Union got a 1 penny raise from the supermarket chains, the large one here, Publix. 1 cent. 1 cent. You know what a big write-up they got? Less than a paragraph, tucked away in the middle of a newspaper. That's how much interest they have on that. But when it gets closer to voting, you're going to think that was a front-page issue, that they got a whopping 1 penny. They're starving to death here, man. We got our own people that are starving to death here. We have 20 million children who go to bed hungry already. That's 20 million children who are going to be into poverty in 10 years' time, in 15 years' time. We're not doing anything about that. All right? Welfare has increased up to 45 million people more, okay? Because of the way the system is now. People are starving. And what do we want them to do more of? We want them to starve a little bit more so somebody else is going to get it. They're not talking about food issues. Okay? We're not even talking about jobs. We're not even talking about unemployment. What about the long-range unemployment? What about the people who have dropped out of unemployment? We're not addressing any of that. But come closer to the election, we're going to be talking more about people coming across the border and beheading people like they used to say in Arizona and all that other stuff, because they want you to pay attention to something else while we let the rest of the country fall down. That's our biggest fault as voters. As human beings, we forgot the word human.
Tony Suara was here on the show last week. He's a well-known attorney, elected official. He was in the legislature. And he's the attorney defending Mildred Fernandez. Mm-hmm. He said, America will collapse. What do you think about that?
If I was going to look at the greater pessimistic picture, and also historically, you know, the Romans and the Greeks and that kind of stuff, perhaps there's some sense in that. I still believe in America. I still believe that we can do the things, the greater things that we need to do. We just have to find our way. Right now, we're lost.
And why is that, though? Why are we lost? Is it lack of leadership? Is it lack of money? What is it that makes us, in your opinion, that we're lost as a society?
Well, a lot of things. I'll start with 9/11. 9/11 changed us, fundamentally changed us. For a while, we were human. For a while, people talked to each other. And right after that, within a short time, we changed. We got involved in wars that we couldn't pay for. We got involved in tax cuts for people who didn't really need them at the time. And not only twice, but 3 times. Okay? So the biggest deficit that we're holding on our backs are those cuts and stuff. And those are things that are haunting us. And that's the reality. That's black and white.
I'm chuckling because on the way over here, I heard Sean Hannity say, "How much do you want from me? You know, how much should the rich have to pay?" Now I don't know how many houses he has.
Barney Franks gave out an example. It would be like paying for every $1,000, 30, 40, 50 bucks, whatever it was. Okay, but for guys that are making $1 million or more, we're talking about chump change. These guys go to dinners that's $750.
I know, they throw $100 tips. I've seen it.
Yeah. Yeah, like you do.
What? Yeah, right. What makes a person like that? A person like they have 7 houses. Right. They have all the money they could possibly spend in 5 lifetimes. Right. They have cars that they never drive. Right. And yet they say you can't touch any of it. Right. You know, it's mine. What kind of person is like? What makes a Sean Hannity a Sean Hannity? And according to him, he gives away money. But you know, he doesn't.
I'm not talking about giving it to the same charity you've been giving to the Republican Party. That's not a charity.
Okay.
Okay, they act like they're poor, but they're not. They're raking in millions.
What makes a person do that?
I think it's just plain greed. We've lost sight.
Is that something in your gene system?
No, I think it's something you learn, and somebody teaches you. Somebody keeps saying you need more. You know, give a dime over there so that you can take 50 cents over here. It'll look great on paper that you gave a dime over here, but you're collecting the 50. You're making your money back 4 times, so don't worry about it. I think we've gotten away from, we live in a society where if you, like you said, you're doing well, you can afford to give up a little something. What are you giving up? Seriously, what have you given up? If you're giving up one more percentage point, what are you actually giving up? Nothing. You made it back over here on this other side. You're investing in the system. We have a system, and I was just talking about it just before I got on air. We have a system where a bunch of guys on Wall Street, even before the opening bell, are telling you you're going to have a bad day. They don't even know the numbers, but they're telling you it's a bad day. So guess what happens when the bell opens up? You have a bad day. Okay? What kind of morons are, what happened to the common sense? Why don't we wait for things? Why don't we try to think outside the box as opposed to speculate on our failure? We spend more money speculating on our failure than we do spending money on being positive.
If you had to tell Warren Buffett and Sean Hannity how to spend their money, what would you tell them?
Dig deep. They're making it. Okay? I understand that, maybe Sean Hannity, sure, Sean Hannity came up from a barrio, okay? I know he was living next door to me, okay? And so he had to really struggle in his lifetime, okay? Buffett made his money. Even Warren Buffett understands the concept. He knows whatever he gives out, he already made back. So to him, it's no sweat. I think we live in a time where we should understand that, and all Americans, whether you're Republican, whether you're Democrat, whether you're Tea Party, whether you're just crazy, now is the time to give back a little so that we can go forward. If we all did that, we can make a change. They're cutting our schools, man. They're cutting teachers. They're cutting firemen, okay? They're cutting everything. They want to cut back Medicaid. They want to take back Social Security. They claim Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. It's been working fine. It's not. It's solvent. It's not an issue at this point. You talk about healthcare issues. Have you ever been to an emergency room? How many people are going there because they don't have insurances? And how many people are milking the system too? I'm not going to say we don't have people milking the system. But what are we offering them in return? We're showing them Hannity's select.
Has that happened because our leadership is that way? Are we, the people, following the example of the leadership of this country? Because the leadership is a take.
Right. I don't think it has anything to do. You can have whoever you want up there. It's local stuff. Okay, it's local stuff. We have a governor that is the worst governor, rated the worst governor in the United States. Follow his example, and we're all in a rowboat. All right, but what everybody's counting on is by the time he gets to be reelected again, we'll all have amnesia. We'll think
it happens all the time anyway.
Yeah, it happens all the time. So we'll think he'll be the greatest thing since Kool-Aid. All right, so we're going by our local. Look at the money that was thrown at our legislators this past period that they were close to $40 million was spent on both sides to gain influence. Now tell me, man, why do you want to pay that kind of money for influence in Florida? And we're giving away the store. We want to cut on pollution. We think that just happened, osmosis and stuff. We're just going to give away everything, and then what? Later on, 20 years, 40 years, we're going to say, well, we needed to do something differently. And we just can't just cut things. That's not. It's hurting. We want to charge seniors tons of cash, okay, to support who? To support guys that are already millionaires? It's not right.
Jose, we're going to fade in and fade out because we have somebody who was here last week. His name is Paul Potter he represents some information that we're going to be conveying to you about Medicaid and Medicare. Welcome back. And we're here with Paul Potter, and Paul Potter is an insurance expert, and to talk about Medicaid and Medicare, since a lot of people are going to reach that magic number, and we're going to try to get that information out on an ongoing basis. Paul, before you leave today, why don't you put your number up, give people your telephone number. Let's do it right now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My phone number is 321-441-4122. It's right here in Altamont Springs.
Right, and we're going to put that on the bottom of the screen, hopefully. Tell us a little bit, Medicaid and Medicare, Part 1, Part B, Part A, Part B. Okay, what's Part A?
Okay, A is what we mortals would call going to the hospital, hospitalization. Anybody who has insurance has hospitalization. Medicare just calls that Part A.
Okay, and that's everything that happens inside the hospital?
Everything in the
Tests,
hospital. Yes.
Surgery, anything within the building?
Room, bed, board, nurse,
Okay.
whatever.
Okay. Part B is everything that happens outside the hospital.
Going to be going to the doctor, having diagnostic tests, and unlike Part A, Part B you're going to be paying on a monthly basis for. It's going to be means tested, so it's going to be based upon your income, and it can be down to zero if your Part B paid for by Medicare, Medicaid, or it can be much more than that if your income is higher in the higher income. But the base for 2011 is $115 a month.
Okay. And that covers everything, but it doesn't cover everything 100%.
You have deductibles and copays with the federal, with Medicare, just like you do with any other insurance. In fact, like I said before, think of Medicare as nothing more than insurance that's run by the federal government.
Okay. And then there's an Advantage plan, what they call the Advantage plan.
Yes.
And that's part of this process also. What is tagged on by the Advantage plan? What does that mean?
Okay, Advantage plans, if you would think in terms of Medicare being insurance that's provided by the federal government for people who are over 65, people who are on disabilities, up until Medicare Advantage plans were offered, the only game in town was Medicare. Medicare looked at that and said there are some situations, some opportunities where people might be better to have a competing plan. In fact, if you talk to your doctors might call it a Medicare replacement plan. Insurance people call it Medicare Advantage. But that is where the Medicare, CMS, who runs Medicare, is actually paying the private insurance company to run your insurance for those who are over, like I say, over 65 or on some kind of disability.
But there's still gaps.
There are still going to be gaps, and you'll see different types of plans. Unlike Medicare, which is very structured with Medicare and Medicare supplements, that all look the same. Medicare Advantage plans, although they're beginning to look more alike, there's a lot less direction from the federal government on those. So you're going to see HMOs, PPOs, different types of arrangements that can be set up there.
Okay. And a person can still buy private insurance.
Yes. You still do that today. That would be an alternative that you can get out there for your Medicare Advantage or just Medicare by itself. And I tell people that you can just have Medicare by itself and not do anything else. That's going to work for some people. Having Medicare and Medicare Advantage would be another possibility. And like you say, the private insurance with Medicare as the base and supplement, what they used to call Medicare a Medigap insurance.
Wasn't there a move recently to do away with the Advantage plan?
There was a move. They spoke about getting rid of Advantage plans, and a lot of that, and this is probably the question that comes up the most, is where is that going to be going, and what's going to happen with Medicare itself. And certainly there's going to be changes that are going to happen. We just can't get away from that. But there have been changes pretty much all along, at least with the deductibles and copays going up and changing. But probably what you'll see is that for the people who are already on Medicare will probably experience the least amount of changes. Those people who are not even just now started working,
right,
their Medicare will look very different than it would be for us.
Right.
And for those of us in the middle, somewhere in between is what we'll see.
What are we doing? The fact that we have the baby boomer generation, which is going to, the numbers are way more than our past, and we're living longer, much to the chagrin of some people. Okay, so what are we going to do about the possibility of a fraud in there to augment the fact that there is a party in power who wishes to curtail the program, probably a third of it, half of it, or just do away with it altogether?
That's probably where Medicare Advantage will probably help a lot. Having competition is going to be a good thing.
Right.
Where there's going to be people who are going to be looking out for that. And really people are making their decisions on what's going to be best for them. And having that choice is going to be a good thing. I don't think we're ever going to get rid of fraud altogether.
Right.
But
what about, I'm sorry, what about the insurance companies that we know have helped, and some of them in hospitals that have helped jacked up this system? How do we keep them in control so that they don't try to take advantage of us in our golden years? Well,
the insurance company, the best way to to look at this is that the insurance company is, it's going to be to their Advantage
Right.
to make sure that there's no fraud and that in there, because that whatever that fraud is happening is coming out of the insurance company's pockets. So they're probably one of the biggest on the front lines of trying to make sure that that's not happening.
You're saying our insurance companies are going to be straight up from now on, when they have been behind most of these cut things.
If you look at the fraud that's happening, you're seeing that more on a provider level than you are on an insurance company level.
Okay.
The ones that are policing that probably the most is going to be Medicare, going to be Medicaid, and if you think of Medicare and Medicaid as being an insurance company, which they are, just run by the federal government, and in the other insurance companies where they're looking to make sure that somebody's not going in for one procedure and is being coded as something different, and
Okay.
from there. So yeah, there is going to be some. We're always going to have one way or another for somebody probably to
Here in
move
Florida,
the system.
our governor has decided to take over Medicaid. So he's
In every
become,
state, the state controls Medicaid.
Okay. So what advantage is that?
Well,
When the federal government had,
we talked about policy earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
Medicare is going to be is a program on the federal level. You'll see CMS is the ones who run Medicare. They also run Medicaid, but their portion for Medicaid is in connection with the states. Each of the states has their own Medicaid. They run Medicaid themselves.
Right.
So I guess the idea is that at the state level, you're going to be able to see your need for that portion of the population a lot better than you are going to be at a federal level.
so he's the governor and he decides he needs more money for other things, let's say education, police, whatever. He can come and cut the budget, right? Can he?
I think what you're going to see is that Medicare is going to say, we're offering this money for Medicaid, whatever the federal portion is going to be,
Right.
And it is earmarked for Health and Human Services. So it won't be something that could be misdirected into something else. In that case, if he said he wanted to do that, then what would happen is the federal government would say, okay, if you choose to do not to use all the money that we're offering to you, or you want to use it in some other way, then we're just going to give you what you need for Medicaid, for what those actual services are going to be.
Okay.
That's something that you and I would do. If I was going to give you the money for you to build a house, and you decided to build something
The
else.
danger is it's not a political system.
Yeah.
That's what
yeah.
they do with Social Security.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to touch it. We're not going to lockbox. We're never going to touch Social Security.
Right.
And what do they do?
They rated.
They rate. We'll put it back later. We'll put it back later.
Still waiting.
Well, and this is that process of, I will spend today and I will save tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes for the saving portion, and we're kind of at that point right now
Right.
where we frankly are going to have to make some pretty tough decisions, and that's not just going to be with Social Security. It's also going to be with Medicare. It's going to be with Medicaid, and this is where we're going to have to make some pretty tough
Are
decisions.
you saying there will be cuts in all these services?
For me to predict what a politician's going to do, the path that's easiest is to say, I'm going to give you what you want, and somebody later will pay for that.
Well, that's what's been going on.
It's been going on. At some point in time, the bill becomes due, and we may be at that time right now.
So you're saying, there's a willingness here to cut patients, to cut taking care, because we're concerned more about the bottom line. Is that correct?
Well, you can put it that way, but I would say that it's easy for us to say that.
Well, no, I'm not
yeah.
trying to phrase it that way. It is that way. If you can't pay for it,
you have to make some decisions now.
so then
but
people are going to be cut.
But the
Not trying to put you on the
expectation.
spot, man.
No,
Listen,
no.
guys, we run out of time.
Let me
I hate
finish.
to do
Let me
this to you,
finish.
but we're out of time.
I want to tell them, but let me finish with
You
this.
got 2 seconds.
Okay, that expectation for the federal government to do that, you can do anything you want. You can pick up a portion and pay that yourself. Okay. So.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
This is Danny Ramos, Hispanic Speak Out TV. We will see you next week. We didn't have enough time. We'll continue the dialogue.
Yes.
See you next week.